Hello again, it's Jeanette here again. Right, the National Trust. I'll give you a little bit of insight into how I became involved with the National Trust. I worked, for the latter part of my working life anyway, for the last 25 or so years in the NHS. And as part of your progression through the years and through different grades and various things, you have appraisals. Most jobs nowadays you have appraisals. Anyway, in an appraisal, I was asked by my then manager, so what do you do, Jeanette, apart from come to work? What do you do? And I said, well, not a lot. I keep fit, I do a bit of exercise, but mainly I'm a housewife, a mother, and that's it. She said, well, don't you think you ought to think about something? Children are getting older and might be worth thinking about doing something for you. She said, have you ever thought about voluntary work? And I said, well, no, I haven't ever thought about voluntary work before, but I'll give it some thought. And I did. So that's how it sort of started. Oh, sorry about that. I had to go and check some information. Anyway, that was early 2009. And I went to a sort of seminar thing about voluntary work one afternoon, took an afternoon off work, went to find out about, what kind of things were available, who wanted help. And I sat at a few tables, talked to a few people, but the National Trust seemed to be something that I could do and something that I was interested in, and I thought I'd have a go. So early 2009, I went along to the local National Trust property, which is Bateman's, which is the home of Rudyard Kipling, or was the home of Rudyard Kipling, famous author of, I think one of his biggest books has to be The Jungle Book or the Just So stories. I went along there and they were happy with me. I was happy with them. I had a look around the property. I'd never been there before and I certainly wasn't a member of the National Trust. But anyway, I liked it. And I went along for a few sessions, got to know some of the history, had a bit of an induction, learnt off the other volunteer room guides. And I started sort of around early summer 2009. I did 3 seasons. That was 2009, 2010, 2011. And in 2011, midway through sort of thing, we found out we were going to be grandparents for the first time. Our son was expecting his first baby. And work was also incredibly stressful. So stressful that I actually had some time off work. To cut a long story short, I had to prioritise. The priority was me and my family, so I gave up all the outside things, which meant giving up the National Trust. So in 2011, at the end of the season, they did seasons then, they used to open it around Easter time and finish around end of October, November. So I finished that season and I told them I wouldn't be going back, family circumstances, etc., and work was just too much. But I said, when I retire, I hope I'd be welcome back, and left it like that. So so that was 10 years or so. Mike and I retired 2017. We had a very busy year 2017, family things going on, and we were very busy, occupied, and really didn't do very much other than helping out where we went, where it was necessary. So that left 2018, where we really had lots of fun, lots of holidays, and started to enjoy our retirement life. 2019, in April, was our 40th wedding anniversary, so we had a super holiday. We went to Disney World in Florida and had a lovely holiday, and again had lots of holidays 2019. But it got to the end of 2019 and I thought, well, okay, now I'm retired, I can do what I like when I like. We've had lots of holidays and we've had lots of fun, but now I need a bit of structure. So I thought, right, I promised myself I would go back to the National Trust. So at the end of 2019, I did. I went back, explained that I was now retired and could commit some more time, and was really looking forward to going back to working for the National Trust on a voluntary basis, again as a room guide. So that was really good. I had to refresh some of my information and that, because obviously in the intervening time you do forget certain facts, important facts too, like they bought this house in whatever year and the house was built in whatever year and all that kind of thing. So anyway, and anyway, I started back as a proper room guide after I'd done all my training and everything, and it was very early 2020. I think it was probably February. So February led into March. In March, we shut down. The whole country shut down. That included National Trust properties, which is really sad, because these places are an outlet for people, for exercise, for interest. But anyway, the place shut. So I just started back. I'd done a couple of months and we were on lockdown. So that we couldn't go all through the summer. I think we started back once the lockdowns were lessened and things were beginning to get a little bit more relaxed. The gardens had always been opened on a book only basis, but the houses were definitely shut all through the main lockdown period.
In fact, they opened the gardens for us volunteers as well as the general public, and we were able to go and just enjoy the lovely gardens, sitting outside in the sunshine. I think this was in July possibly, and we could just wander around and enjoy the wonderful flowers, the scenery, and it was like almost getting back to a little bit of normality. It was nice to see some of our fellow volunteers as well, and so many of us were considering the options, what would happen if and when we could return. But it was lovely to come to the house. We had a little drink and a cake, all very socially distant, obviously, but just sat and enjoyed the surroundings. It was a very enjoyable afternoon, and we were very grateful that the National Trust invited us back just to have a look and to keep us involved in what was going on. It was nice to see the mill too, although of course it wasn't going round, but it was nice to see the building and nice to see that everything was still growing and everything was so lovely and fresh. In August, I also went out again with my sister, and we had a look around the gardens, little bit different things were growing, and some of the summer flowers had finished. But again, it was lovely weather. And again, we were made very welcome by people that were still working, people on the gates and things, but we were only allowed to wander around the gardens as before.
I think we opened around September, I want to say. But anyway, it was quite late in the season. But as soon as we were able to go back, we were contacted by the house teams. And we had to go through a whole load of new training, of course, like everybody and everything. Everything was COVID now related. So all our training had to be revamped and upped so that we were aware of what our obligations were as volunteers, what we expected of the visitors who were coming to the house. And certain parts of the house were not open because it was just too difficult. Sanitisation does not go hand in hand with conservation, and that's what the National Trust does. It conserves properties, houses, collections and things, and the sanitisation process just didn't go along with that. So certain parts of the house weren't open because it was too difficult to do that. But we were open downstairs for a few rooms and the people came flooding back, which was marvellous, absolutely lovely. So I went back to doing my weekly sessions and everything was lovely as far as I was concerned. A lot of volunteers didn't go back. A lot of volunteers are elderly, and it was too much of a gamble for them to be out in the public again. So look, people didn't go back. Some people did. It was entirely up to your own thoughts and your own beliefs as to whether you wanted to go back or not.
I did go back, and as you can see in these pictures, we did have to take the necessary precautions with masks or visors. The visor was preferable to me because I wanted to see people and I was speaking to people, and I think it was important for them to see my face as well. But it was lovely to be back, and it was lovely to be in the house once again, welcoming the visitors in.
I did go back, and then a second lockdown happened, so the house had to close again. The gardens remained open and people could visit the gardens and go for a walk, but you couldn't enter the house. So that was my voluntary work, again on hold, during the 4 weeks of the second lockdown. But then 3 weeks ago, houses reopened, the lockdown was lessened again, and the house reopened. So I have gone back to my voluntary work with Bateman's, which I love. I love to do it. And I'll show you here, because when we went back after the lockdown, it was the end of November, sorry. So we were just starting the Christmas period, and the house had been decorated by the staff of the house, and it was very tastefully decorated. I'll show you some of the pictures that I took when I went back to start my latest round of volunteering, with all the Christmas decorations. Peter Rabbit from Beatrix Potter was some of the theming that went on in some of the rooms. But it was lovely to be back, and I'm sure all members of the National Trust, as well as employees, as well as volunteers, were very happy to be open once again.
And unfortunately, this story does have a sad ending, because the National Trust houses have had to close. Bateman's is in East Sussex, which is in Tier 4, and all non-essential properties, shops, businesses have had to close. So the house is once again closed. And there ends my look at Bateman's and my voluntary work, which is now on hold until we can go back, which I hope is very soon. Thank you for watching. Bye. And if you'd like to know any more about the National Trust, what it does, the properties, and even if you'd like to volunteer yourselves, please go to their website at nationaltrust.org.uk. Thank you.